Hey everyone, I'm Jill Zande, the Associate Director and Competition Coordinator for the MATE Center, and I want to welcome you to the last Facebook Live competition prop demonstration event for the 2017 competition season. We've been through Scout, we've been through Navigator, we've been through Ranger, and today Competition Technical Manager Matt Gardner is going to walk us through the Explorer class missions and demonstrate the props. But more excitedly, you're going to be able to ask Matt questions about the props, about the mission tasks, and get answers live directly from the source. So we're really excited to bring this to you. Now, while today is the last prop demonstration competition live event, it will certainly not be the last Facebook Live event that we do. We will definitely have more planned in the future, including one, actually several, during the May International ROV competition in June in Long Beach. So make sure, if you don't want to miss any of these, make sure that you subscribe. You should see a subscribe button on your screen. Make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss an event. And speaking of events, you may have caught our Facebook Live event that we did last week at the Underwater Intervention Conference and Exhibition in New Orleans. We got cut off because we didn't have great Wi-Fi, but anyway, it was great impromptu Facebook Live event. We had some CMATE students with us that day, including CMATE student Matt Mora, and I'm going to bring him over here. There's Matt Mora.
Hey.
And there's Amanda. Amanda is also in the workshop today. So you may remember seeing Matt. Last week he was at Underwater Intervention with us and walking around, and I think it's safe to say that the CMATE students really gained a lot, learned a lot more about the industry by being there and taking in all the exhibitors and all the great technology. So I introduced Matt because we don't have Newman today. Newman is off today, not here in the workshop, but Matt's agreed to take over to do the filming. So I'm going to turn it over to him. Here we go. All right. And Competition Technical Manager Matt Gardner, who, by the way, looks very different than when you last saw him on the Facebook page. No suit and tie.
Yeah, no suit and tie today, but so as we were talking about today, we're going to go through some of the Explorer missions. But before that, as Jill said, if you have questions, write them in. We will get them answered to the best of our ability. And I also want to say, how many of you have seen the online videos of all the missions that we have? Shout out to Kendrick for making those for us. They're really good, and they go through all the missions so you can actually see a simulation of all the missions. So before we actually get into the tasks, I want to talk some about some of the changes for Explorer classes here, which hopefully you've identified. And the first one is, just want to mention this year that ROVs are limited to 30 amps, not 40. So this year you've got 48 volts and only 30 amps to play with. So just hopefully everyone saw that in the manual. It's marked with new for 2017. The next thing I want to talk about is a little bit about the Explorer class video. So videos are going to be due on May 13th, but I'm going to strongly recommend, if you can, get those in earlier, because May 13th is the cutoff date. So every Explorer team needs to send us a video, and I'm going to talk about what we're going to need to see. But if you get it in, if you send it in May 13th and it's not perfect, and we have to decline it, that means you don't get to come. So get those in early. That way, if there is an issue, we can tell you, and if it's still before May 13th, you can make another video, submit it, and then hopefully that one will get you approved to move on to the international. So also this year, as part of that video, there's also the video safety specification. So if you looked in the manual, there's a lot of things. You're going to have to show us a video of your vehicle and prove to us things, a number of things like your wiring's good, you have a fuse, all your motors are shrouded. So look through the manual, find that area and in the video and see all those things that you need to show us in your video so you can qualify for the international. Okay, the next thing, as we said, after this, ask your questions live today, but after this, ask them on the FAQ board. I'm answering them as rapidly as I can on there. Every couple days I get on and answer those questions. Okay, so unless there are any questions so far, we're going to get into the tasks. And the first one is the Commerce Hyperloop construction. So the first part of that is inserting the 2 rebar rods into the base plate. So for Explorer class, you are actually using real rebar. painted just so it doesn't rust a bit, but there's going to be 4 of them. Now you only need to grab and move 2 over. You can do it one at a time. You can do them both at once. I'm going to do them one at a time. But there'll be 4 here. You can come pick them up, bring them over here, and drop them into there. And of course you need to get 2, so get another one, bring it over and drop it in there. We have some extras just in case if you drop it on the ground. You could of course pick that one up from the ground, but if you don't want to, there we've given you 4 to play with. Okay, so the next part is installing the frame onto the base plate. So the frame is going to be on the surface side of the pool, and I've got a lot of questions about, how far out the base plate is going to be. And the goal of this mission is not to have it so far out that you can't do it. We're going to have this base plate as close to the side of the pool as possible. So you're going to have the frame up on the surface, and you are going to have your team members or members lowering this down. Lining it up and dropping it down. Now, your ROV, as it's up here, your ROV can bump it, but your ROV can't grab it, grip it, anything like that. So if you wanted to bump it a little bit to align it, that's fine. Whoops, that one's not all the way down. Then once it drops down, you got your points. Okay, the next part is pull out this pin. And when you do that, the chains are going to drop down, and your team members can pull this to the surface and leave this on the surface side of the pool. And for the pin, bring it back if you want. You can leave it on the bottom, doesn't matter. Please don't walk off with it when you're done with your run. Okay, so the next part, once you have the frame installed, is transporting and positioning the hose. So there's going to be the hose. And on the end, we've got a plus and a U-bolt to grab it with, so pick this up, bring it over, and drop it in. So that would work, but that would not. That's not all the way in, so it does need to be all the way in. That's probably good enough because this is far enough in there. That's even better, but you do want it all the way in. So that part way in, part way out wouldn't count. You want it all the way in. Okay, and the last part of this mission is there are going to be 3 of these around. These are the positioning beacons. So pick them up and return them to the surface. So 1, 2, and 3. Now on these we have some Velcro, and it's the Velcro hooks, the more scratchy part of it there. And that's just, if you want to use that to help you pick it up, that's fine. You don't have to use those to pick it up. But these 3 need to come back to the surface side of the pool. Which brings me to another point. A lot of teams have asked about collection baskets. So instead of having to pick these up 1 or 2 at a time, bring them back, or all 3 at a time, bring them back, and then go down and do other things, teams can lower down, and you can lower by hand a collection basket, put things in there, and then bring it up by hand, retrieve them. However, there's 2 things. That collection basket does count as debris, so if it's in the end of the pool, when the mission time's up, there is a penalty for that. But that collection basket also must go through size and weight. So that is going to be included in your ROV when you're doing size and your weight measurements. Okay, any questions yet?
No questions, but hey, I did want to give a shout out to Copiah Lincoln Community College. Hey guys, yeah, we did see you in New Orleans, Louisiana. It was great to see you, Reggie, Kevin, Carrie, and the gang. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, so the next task is the entertainment, light, and water show maintenance over here. So sorry, I should have said this with the last task, I accidentally skipped it. But the construction task, the Hyperloop construction, that one must be done in order. It's a construction task. You can't skip steps of the construction and have it all turn out well. So that one has to be done in order. For the entertainment one, this one mostly has to be done in order. There's a few things you can do out of order, and I'll talk about those during it. So also, this is a task that you must do for your Explorer class demonstration. And essentially there are 9 steps of this task. We need in that video, we need all 9 steps successfully completed. So don't think, oh, I got 8 of them, they'll give me credit, because we need to see all 9 of them done perfectly. And one other thing, we last week or 2, we've noticed, some people wrote in, thank you for that, there were a few updates to the manual for this task for spinning the valve. There are a couple points in the manual and the build instruction, I think 1 or 2 each, where it talked about a handle, a PVC handle. That was an error cut and paste. We've got those updated. There are no PVC handles on it. I'll go through it and we'll look at it. It's just the gate valve itself.
Yep, but we don't have them posted yet, but we'll do
Oh,
it.
they're not posted yet, but they are.
I'll get to it.
We just got back.
On the list.
We just got back from a conference, so
Yeah.
so we've just been in the office a little bit. Okay, so anyway, the first steps of this are disconnecting the power and turning the valve to stop the flow of water to the platform. And these can be done in any order. So to disconnect the power cable right here, and all you got to do is pull this out. And so once the end of this is out of the port, it's good. So you can leave it there. You can carry it around for a while if you want, but once it's out, you got the points for that. And then there's turning this valve. Now again, this is, we're very limited for space in the workshop, so it's going to be a little different. This would actually be rotated out that way, but I'm going to have it rotated this way just so we can fit. And then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to turn this valve 3 times around clockwise. So 1, 2, 3, and that'll be it. So a lot of people have been asking, how much force does it take to turn this valve? And I have a little force meter, and actually on these gate valves there's a little, man, you can come in close. This nut right here, loosen this up and it makes it much easier to turn. And these ones for Explorer and actually for Ranger class, they are so loose that just the weight of this spring scale will turn it. So you can see it doesn't take very much force at all to turn. And this spring scale weighs virtually nothing. So very, very little force to turn this. Another question we've been getting a lot about this is the judge does actually need to see this turn. So if you have a big contraption that covers this up, something happens under there and you say, yeah, it got turned, the judge doesn't know that. So the judge is actually going to have to see that, yes, you are turning this 3 times around clockwise. Okay, so that's just something to consider when you do that. Some suggestions: make it so you have a camera that can see that. Make whatever manipulator you have maybe clear or see part of it see-through so you can actually see that turn. Okay, I think those were the questions for that. Okay, so then what you do is once you've disconnected the power, turn the water off, your ROV is going to have to go underneath here, and just a little kind of how I built it. If you have, for Explorer class, if you have one of the smaller sizes, you can actually fit through this. If you're kind of medium size, you can fit through this. If you're just under the maximum, you're probably going to have to come in this far side. But anyway, your ROV is going to come underneath here. And then we have the locking mechanism. Sorry, let me get that. So it's going to be like that. And what you need to do is you need to turn this locking mechanism from one side to the other. Okay? And you can see it comes off a little bit, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. What you just need to do is if it's like that, you need to turn it so it's like that. Okay? And then once you've done that, you can fly back out of here. And you are going to pick up the fountain. This is the old fountain that's on here, so pick this up, bring it back to the surface. Now, you can bring this back to the surface now. You can put it in a collection basket, or you can wait to do it later. This can kind of be done out of order. Once it's off here, you get points for that, getting it back to the surface. It can be done at a later time. So that goes there. And then there's going to be a new one on the surface that you need to bring down and put it on there. So now you've removed the old fountain and installed the new one. So once you've installed the new one, then you come back under here and you're re-engaging the locking mechanism. So that just means you're turning it back to the way it was at the start. Okay, and you're flying back out. And then you are reconnecting the power and turning the water back on. So these two can be done in either order, so I'll do it start by just connecting the power. And this is actually very similar to the mission you had last year, but this is a tight fit, so when you're making your video, make sure that you get this done. Okay, so it gets in there, and essentially when this, the plus, the cross here, is pretty much flush with the end, then you're good. And then the last part is turning this clockwise 3 times. 1, 2, 3. There you go. So you re-engage the water and you're done with that task. And you could at this point, if you haven't come back up, you bring the old one back up, as I said, at this point at any time. Okay? Any questions, Jill?
No.
Oh my gosh,
It's
this is
really,
gonna
really quiet. It's really quiet here. Somebody at least say something.
Yeah, so
you're
give
still
us
there.
give us a shout out so at least we know someone's
Right,
watching.
someone's
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe I'm just getting so good at these. That must be it. Okay. So anyway, the third task is health, environmental cleanup. And for this one, I have it set up on the table now. Of course, underwater, there's not going to be a table that it's up on. It's going to be down on the ground. Like I said, we're just very space limited here. So there's 2 sediment samples, and they will both have this base. I only have one base right now, but some auger in here, 1 red, 1 blue. And so the first thing you need to do is shine a light on the sediment samples, the auger, to get their Raman spectrums. Now, if you haven't had a chance, I've said this for all the classes, all of these we've done. If you get a chance, check out some just background information on Raman lasers. They're really, really cool. They're this laser, you shine it at something, get the reflection, and actually it will tell you what it's made of. So we're kind of getting into that Star Trek style technology where you shine a light on something, know what it's made of. And I want to give a shout out to Wes Thompson, one of the regional coordinators up in the Pacific Northwest, who really helped us out, giving us a lot of cool information on the Raman lasers.
Yay, we have a question.
Good, okay, question.
Kyle, well, first of all, Kyle from Purdue. Hello.
Hey.
Thanks for tuning in. Nathan, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the thumbs up. Okay, here we go. If the collection basket lowered down by a rope, could the ROV move it to any place on the field, then lift it up by the rope from there?
Yes.
That's I got that.
Yeah. So if the person dropping it down is not going to be able to get it very far out, but if then you want the ROV to pick it up and move it out, honestly, you could even have the ROV drag it down from the surface if you wanted. But yeah, you can have the ROV move it around, and even if it's out there in the middle, you could pull it up by hand from out in the middle. Of course, if you get it off balance and it falls out, that's your problem, not our problem. But yes, you can do that. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
And Gardner says award-winning Matt is doing a great job. Matt won an award last week at the conference. That's what it's all about. Check out his picture on the competition Facebook page. Suit and tie.
Okay. So for simulating the Raman laser, you can use a bright light or you can use a laser. I will say, if you do plan to use a laser, I believe tomorrow is the due date for getting your laser specifications in. I have them from a couple teams only right now. I think I have 2, maybe 3 in. But if you're planning on using a laser, that is March 3rd, which is tomorrow, is the submission deadline. So get those in so they can be approved.
Another question.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Can I
No,
interrupt?
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. So for mission 3, could a team use a compressor or any mechanism away from the ROV to get their auger, but the ROV will put this in mechanism? Yep.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Are we back on?
This connection's weak.
Are we
I
good?
think we're good.
We're good.
Okay.
I think we're good. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had a weak connection. So the question was, can you set something down that gets the auger as you're doing other things? That's actually something we hadn't really thought of. Why don't you post that to the FAQ board? Myself and our other judges who go over this stuff will discuss it and we'll get an answer back to you.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So, as I said, you can use a bright light or laser. I have this really bright light, but this would actually be illegal because it has onboard batteries. I'm going to use it anyway, just as an example. But you could, jury rig this so it is powered from ROV surface power. But anyway, it does need to be colored as well. I've got you can kind of see a little red light over there. Honestly, I just colored it red. But what you have to do is come on over here and shine a light, and the judge is going to be able to see that this light is shining. So there, this one's nice and bright. So there you can see, hopefully you can see that on there, that you have now illuminated this sediment sample. So when you do that, you are going to be able to turn over one of the Raman spectrum. These are going to be on the surface table. So turn over this one, and you will see that here's the spectrum, and we'll talk about that later. So then we're going to go over, and you do have to shine a light in both. So there's one in the blue. And when you do that, now you can turn over the other spectrum here. And as you look at these, both of these have the diamond peak. That's just a calibration at 1332. And as I look at this one has some little things here and there, but this is actually the contaminated sample. So this was the red auger, which was contaminated. And then what you need, well, this is the Ranger one, but the Explorer one's the same. There are going to be a handbook, contaminant handbook on the table, and you're going to look through this, and you're going to match up the contaminants. So this one that we're looking at has a big kind of wide peak just above 500, and then another peak at around 1050. So as I look through this, here's a peak, a big wide peak around 500, and this is cadmium sulfide. So this peak says that there's cadmium in the sediment. And then the other one at around 1050, well, looks like this one, yep, looks like this one. So this one peak also means there's lead. So for this sample, there's both cadmium and lead in this. So this is your sample, and you say, hey, tell the judge this one's contaminated with both cadmium and lead, and then you're good. Okay, so since this was a red one, we then need to get a sediment sample. So I have my handy dandy collector here. So we're going to go get some sediment out of here. And again, it was a red one that was contaminated, so we can leave the blue one alone. And we're going to get a little bit of auger, put it in our container and bring it back up. And now also, come around this way, also on the table, you're going to have a beaker, graduated cylinder, something with some water in there. And this one, we've got 250 milliliters of water in here. I'm going to dump this in there. So Explorer class teams, to get full points, you're going to need 150 milliliters. So 250 plus 150 means 400. So as I look at this, I didn't get quite enough auger. So I only got like 50 something milliliters auger. So I have two choices. This will get me partial points. This will get me, I believe, only 10 out of the 30 possible points. Or I can go down and get more. But if I do go down and get more, this part gets discarded. So that would get discarded. Let me find the garbage over here. And so I want to get full points. So I'm going to come back down and I'm going to try and get a lot more auger this time. So I'm going to get my handy dandy tool. There's a big chunk. Just to be safe, I'll get a little bit more. Bring this back and let's see if this is 150 milliliters. So again, I wanted to go up to the 400. And yeah, we're over that. So that's plenty of auger there. So that would get me my full points. Okay. And then the other thing we have to do is pick up some clams. So there's this bed of clams. And so even though there's two samples, we only have one bed of clams. So this will go with whatever sample is the contaminated one. It's going to be this one bed of clams. And there are going to be at least 25 clams in here. I found that 28 makes a nice pile, so at least at the International, there'll probably be 28. And you need to get 2 of them and bring them back to the surface. Now, there was a question, can you get more? Yeah, if you happen to grab 3 or 4, that's fine. You don't get any extra points. You can bring those back to the surface. Okay, and once you've done that, the next thing you need to do is cap the contaminated area. And for this, what you're actually capping is the clam bed. Even though it goes to both the contaminated and non-contaminated, you are putting it over here. So the lid is going to be down there nearby. You're going to carry it up and put it over. And for Explorer class, it must completely cover the rectangle of this. Now, there was a question, if some clams get spread out as you're collecting, which is going to happen, and you don't have to cover every clam, you just have to cover the rectangle. So that would not work because it hasn't covered the whole rectangle. So you need it covering the whole rectangle. So that would work. That would work as well. Okay, now the last thing about this is once you cap this, this mission can kind of be done a little bit out of order, but once you cap it, you're done. You can't collect clams, you can't collect auger. Now, if you have collected some auger, it's on your vehicle, you've collected clams that are on your vehicle or in your collection basket, then you put this down, you're good. You can bring those back up and get points for those. But once it's down, there's no more collecting auger or clams from here.
Nice. And we have some questions.
We got some questions. Excellent.
So, well, first of all, I want to say hi to Patrick Rowe. Yes, it is a much better venue than the lecture forum. So, yes, thank you for commenting about that. So, someone asked, could you please tell us the preparation procedure for agar and its ratio to water?
Yes. So, what I did, is, I should have brought it in, but I got it from bulkfoods.com. It's called Auger, is just how they sell it. And what I do is I put in a pan to boil, I put 1 cup of this, and then I get 1 teaspoon of Auger per one of these cups. So for this today, I prepared 2 of these cups, 1 red, 1 blue. So I put in that much water. I actually added a little less because some's going to boil out. And then I added 2 teaspoons flat of the Auger. And the one I use, I followed the instructions. So you let it sit without cooking for 12 to 15 minutes. Then you boil it, bring it to a boil, let it boil for 5 minutes, and then I let it cool down. And once it's a little cooler, I pour it into these. So our goal for this is not to make this Auger so hard that you can't get it. It's to make it, we just want you to have to collect something that's solid. And this is what we've just found works good for sediment samples. So, it's kind of hard to see, but it's not real hard, but it is solid in there.
Cool.
Hopefully that answers your question.
All right, we have another one. All right, so how long will the distance be between the missions, and will the hose be near to the mission?
So this hose, yes, I don't know if it says in the manual, but are you talking about, hopefully I think they're talking about this hose, but for task 1, yeah, it will be, I believe, in the specs it says about 1 to 2 meters away, so it's not going to be far. Now, all the missions are going to be somewhat close, so if you read your manual, it's down in the, I think it's one of the mech somethings, it talks about tether length, and so I believe for Explorer, everything's going to be within 10 meters of the side of the pool. So wherever the table control station is, at the edge of the pool there, everything's going to be within 10 meters. If you look, you can find the depth of the pool at Long Beach. I believe we're working in 12 feet, which is 3.7, 3.8 meters. So you can calculate. And then we also have in there our table where our power supply is going to be 2 to 3 meters back from the side of the pool. So that's how you're going to calculate your tether length. So essentially all these missions will be within 10 meters of the side of the pool, but you also got to take into account the depth.
Cool. Another question. So there was a question about Bluetooth, but we haven't gotten to that mission yet. So the next question is, in mission 1, what's meant by not skipping any step?
So essentially what that means is you have to do it in order. So the first thing you have to do is come get 2 of these and put them, some rebar fell down in there, and put the rebar in here. If you cannot do that, if you just cannot get the rebar in there, you're not going to be able to continue with task 1. Now you could go do task 2, 3, and 4, but you couldn't do it in there. So let's say you did successfully get 2 in there. There's one down in there, falling down a little hole. And you're lowering down this frame, and you just cannot get it on. No matter what you do, you just cannot get it on. You get points for this, but if you can't get the frame on, you can't get points for pulling the pin, or putting the hose in here, or collecting the beacons, the positioning beacons. So essentially, as you go through that, if you get points for the first step of task 1, you can move on to the second one. If you get points for that, you can move on to the third one. But you can't skip any of those and continue on with task 1. Now again, if you couldn't get this on, you've got points for getting the rebar in, but not the frame. You can still get points to go do task 4, 3, and 2. You just can't get any more points for task 1.
Cool. All right, another question.
Okay.
We have more questions. This is great. So more questions about the auger. Should the auger be solid, or can it be more gelatinous so it can be pumped?
It's going to be solid. Like I said, you can see. You can kind of see. I'll hold it up here. So it is solid. So you are not going to be able to pump this.
If anybody has ever made Jell-O,
it's a good consistency of Jell-O.
No, it doesn't double as a snack. We have not tasted it.
I have. It is edible though.
All right. Another question, more about the whole cup carrying the auger and then lift it to the surface with using a collection basket.
No, you cannot. You actually have to get auger out of the cup. You cannot grab the whole cup and take it out. And actually, there's some Velcro on the bottom, so that cup is stuck down in there. And there will be some weights on here. Hold this down, and even though pretty much every Explorer class vehicle is going to have enough strength to lift those weights up. Nope, you can't lift that up. You actually have to dig in there and get your 150 milliliters of auger. So the cup cannot come up with it.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
That's it for now. Yeah.
So I think we're done with task 3. Moving on to task 4, which is a Bluetooth one. Yep. Okay, so this task can be done out of order, although there's some logical things. Obviously, you can't do some things before the other. So there are going to be 4 containers down here. The first step is identifying all 4. Now I have some extra tape on here, but you'll notice this one has 2 black stripes here and here. This one has 4 black stripes. This one has 1 black stripe. This one has 3. So they're going to be differentiated by these stripes, and you need to, in your camera, show the judge all 4 of these containers. Now, it can be done one at a time, or if you have a camera that has all 4 of them in there, and you go, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Judge, there's all 4. That's all we want, that you have found all 4 of these containers. So the next step is you're going to activate each of these. So essentially you're determining the contents and risk level of each container, and you're doing that by activating the Bluetooth. So again, you're going to need a light or laser, and take that off so it's a little brighter. On here we have, come in from the side. Yeah. So you can come in from this side. The light sensor is in this bottom tube, so the light sensor is right here going into the back, and you can see the tube there you're going to shine a light into. And our Bluetooth, our transmitting master Bluetooth, is in here in a little pipe such as this, and it's hooked up. So now, the Bluetooth we have is going to be transmitting the words Mate 2017 until you shine a light. So again, you're going to shine a light in here, and once you shine a light in here and activate this light sensor, going to get the signal up to the top, and now it's going to, when this light is shining, the Bluetooth is going to change and transmit the container ID number. So it's actually, if this light's not shining, it's going to go back to Mate 2017. So what you're going to need to do is build your Bluetooth slave, the one that's going to receive this signal, and it'll only send out the container number when the light is shining. So it'd be, container. Then if you turn it off, it'd go back to Mate 2017. So what you're going to have to do is get your light and your Bluetooth receiver close to this. Now what we found with testing is you need to be 5, 6, 7, 8 centimeters away to get the Bluetooth underwater. So you'll also notice on this, the Bluetooth's in here, and it's right above the tube that the light sensor is. So what you're going to need to do is shine a light down here, and your Bluetooth is then at the same time going to need to be within a couple centimeters of this. And when you do that, you are going to get your container ID number. Now, again, we're kind of leaving it up to you as to how to design this, how to program things. But like I say, ours is going to be transmitting Mate 2017 until a light shined, and when that light is shining, activating the light sensor at the back of this, then it's going to transmit change to transmit the container ID number. Okay? So essentially, you got your Bluetooth here, you're getting a container ID number, and I'll tell you what it is, or one of them is later. Okay? So let's say you did that, and your container...
Matt, can I ask you a question? Yes. So there was a question about how you waterproof the Bluetooth module inside the PVC pipe.
We did it with epoxy.
Epoxy?
Yep. And the problem is we're not getting them out of there, but it waterproofs it. But there are other ways. If you want to retrieve that later, you could try doing something else.
And yet another question about auger. Yep. So there was a search for auger. I think we're hearing from our friends in the Middle East. Hello. Auger, it costs too much, so could I replace it with gelatin powder?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, if gelatin powder is easier, what you want is you just want something of this consistency. Now, for those of you at the Egyptian Arab regionals that move on to international, you are going to get this auger, but it's the same. For us, auger is a little cheaper than Jello. That's why I didn't go with Jello. But yeah, you can use whatever you want for practicing. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, back to task 4. Let's say we went down, activated that RFID, and we got container number 1. That's container number 1. We actually did container number 3. So let's say we got container number 3 was MZ14892. So again, you're going to get the container ID number. It's going to have 2 letters and then 5 numbers after. And then on the table, there's going to be an Explorer Container Manifest Handbook. And in here on the first page is going to have just what is high risk, what's low, what's moderate risk. And then we're going to have all the containers. So here's a container. ID is AT something, but we're looking for MZ. So AX. And these will be alphabetical, so you can flip through them. UK. There we are. MZ 14892. Contents, military ammunition. Hazard 1.1. So if we go back here, that's a high risk cargo. So that one has explosives in it. So that was container number 3 is high risk. As we go down and do other ones and get those numbers, let's say container 1 is, of course they split on different pages. So container 1, let's say we got OR 17137. So you go through this and look to O's. There it is. So container 1 contains waterproof matches, hazard class 4.1. We go to the front. 4.1 is flammable, and of course, you know, flammables underwater aren't quite as dangerous, so that's a moderate risk. So container 1's moderate risk. 3 is high risk. Container 2, AX 87840. So again, you'll go through this. That container has ground black pepper. There's no hazard level for that. Hey, I get to make up fun stuff. Sneezing hazards, but yeah, no real hazard. So container 2 has no hazard. And then container 4, we got EK97471. So we'll go to the E's here. Okay, so that contains something called OxoHealth, which is a hydrogen peroxide, hazard class 5.2. And this is container 4, so that's also moderate risk. So we had container 1 was moderate risk, container 4 was moderate risk, container 2 was no risk, and container 3 was our high risk. So we've now identified that container 3 is our highest risk cargo. Okay? So what then we need to do is you need to attach a buoy, a marker buoy to that. And for Explorer class, you are designing your own marker buoy. The only things we specify is you need a float on the top, which is red or orange in color. And then you need some sort of line, rope, wire, whatever, and a hook or something on the bottom. And we identified 3 as a highest risk cargo. So you're going to have to hook something through this U-bolt and then have that go up with a red or orange float on the surface. So really not too complicated, just something to hook on here. I know we did have a question on the FAQ boards. It doesn't have to go all the way around. You don't have to pull in compasses. As long as you have a hook and a float on the surface and they're connected, you're good. Okay? So the next part is determining the direction and distance from the highest risk containers to the other 3 containers. Now you can use any sort of measuring device, and for length and for distance, we don't want an exact compass point. You just have to say north, northwest, west, southwest, south, or one of the 8 compass direction points. And for the pool, we're gonna tell you beforehand which way is north-south. And actually, I looked it up. If you go on Google Maps and look at the Long Beach City College pool, their pool lines run directly north to south. So for this example, why don't I say that direction over there is going to be north? So this is our most hazardous container. If that is north, I'm going to say that container. So this is container 3, most hazardous. Container 2 is north. Container 4 is northwest. Container 1 is west. Okay, so that is the directions. And then I'm just using a tape measure. Again, you can use anything you want. So from the most hazardous out to container 1, we have 1.29 meters, so 129 centimeters. So there you've got your length and a direction. For this one, which is out at northwest, and again, what we're doing is we're measuring from the very tip top of the U-bolt, so the very top arc of the U-bolt. So that one is 1.23 meters. And that one out there is going to be 167 centimeters. So there you go, you've got your length and your directions to each of those. Now, if you get something wrong, let's say, I think we just said this is 167, is what it actually is, and that's what we at the Mate Center measured. beforehand, and you go, oh, it's actually 194 centimeters, and you're outside that 10 centimeter distance, the judge will tell you, nope, you're wrong. If you want, you can go back and remeasure it. Now, you're not going to get points for remeasuring and coming up with a new distance, but you can use that. If you get it right, the judge will tell you, yes, that's right, and you can use that to make your map with. Okay? And so once you have the distances and directions, you are going to make a map. So there's going to have a blank map. It looks like I don't have my blanks with me, which is fine. But there are going to be blank maps on the table. You're going to put the most hazardous container in the center or somewhere on that map, and then you're going to draw the 3 other containers. And then on that map, you want to put distance and direction. So if you look in the manual, there's great examples of this. And you're going to make a map that has a distance and direction from the most hazardous container to the other 3 containers. Okay, I think that's it for the missions. Do you have more questions?
No,
okay.
No, we can do, nope, I'm not seeing any. Do you have
okay.
anything?
Yeah, I do. Let's see, there's usually a few things I have. So number 1, if you are watching this later, and I said at the beginning, send your questions, post them on the FAQ board. I will answer them when I can. Let's see, I talked about collection baskets, talked about posting on the FAQ board. One other thing I just want to talk about in general is if you look at the build instructions, look at those first 2 or 3 paragraphs before we actually start building them. And what those talk about is most of this stuff is hand built. So, you always want to build your things, any tools with a little bit of, know that there's going to might be little differences in distance and things like that. And the other thing is never, ever, ever use a distance like this. If you say, I know this is 22, this is 22, never estimate that, this distance here from the build instructions is exactly 26.5 centimeters. Therefore, I'm going to extrapolate out that this. So don't use any of our devices for measuring because, again, little discrepancies in cutting can add some things. So again, just look at those. Look at the first 2 or 3 paragraphs of the build document. And don't build to such precise specifications. They can only do something if it's precisely that distance. Okay, as I said, I think that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for writing in all your questions. And that, as I said, that's it for our Explorer, Ranger, Navigator, and Scout. And but it's not our last Facebook Live. We'll keep posting other things as we get to them.
Absolutely. So hey, I just wanted to say, Amanda is here, and Amanda has paid so much attention. I think she needs to come down to Long Beach and judge this because she could be a great judge. We're going to sign her up when she's not working in the CMate store. That is, we'll have her in Long Beach with us. But I just wanted to say, thanks for tuning in. All of these Facebook Live videos, they'll be on our site, on our Mate Competition Facebook site, and also links to the videos themselves. I'll put those on the competition website. So if you go to Scout and Navigator, you'll see links to these videos on YouTube and Vimeo. I'll do the same for Ranger and then Explorer when we're all done here. So, but as Matt said, we're going to be doing more, and as I said earlier, we're going to be doing more and more Facebook Live, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And that's it. So thank you, Matt Mora, behind the camera. Give a wave goodbye. It's you today.
Okay.
It's you today.
Yeah.
All right. So again, thanks. Write in your future questions to the competition FAQ board. Matt will get to them, and we're tuning out. Have a great rest of your day or evening.